Hello, everybody. And well, are we here? Do I see myself? Oh, okay. I don't see myself, but hello, everyone, and welcome. There we go. There we go.
There we
Hi,
go.
everybody. Thanks for coming out today. Uh, I'm David Weiner, director of In Search of Darkness 90s. Along with me is producer Dominic Wallace. And we are absolutely pleased to be able to introduce everyone to Adam Marcus, extremely accomplished writer and director. You know him arguably for Jason Goes to Hell, but Texas Chainsaw in 2013, Secret Santa in 2018, many also non genre amazing titles. He's been around the block. He's here to talk about all sorts of things. You could ask them any questions, but our focus today will be 90s horror for the most part, but we can go in any direction we want. But I do want to ask you off the bat, Adam. I think you and I actually grew up in the same sort of area of the country in the
Mhm,
Northeast
mhm.
around the same time, watching the same 4:30 movie in the afternoon with Monster Week and Planet of the Apes Week, and
Mhm.
see the smile comes up because we he knows kind of our stomping grounds.
Yeah,
So if you would talk a little bit just about your childhood exposure to horror and these kinds of influences that may have shaped your brain into wanting
sure.
to go into film, but also the horror genre.
Well, I think the 4:30 movie is probably the greatest gateway into horror, but it really is. And I actually feel bad for today's generations of filmmakers because you have such a poo poo platter at your disposal now because of streaming and everything else that there's nothing focusing you towards something. I mean, when you knew there was a week of nothing but movies like The Fly coming on, that moment was you were in front of that television glued to it.
Mm.
And I remember, I mean, I would sneak into my mom's bedroom because it was the only room that had a color TV. Um, and it was cookies, a glass of milk, and Vincent Price. And it really did entree you into this magical world that felt, a little creepy, a little hidden, a little mysterious. You felt a little wrong for watching, which was amazing. I mean, we all. I mean, I know, Dominic's too young, but I know that David and I both grew up in the generation of you would have certain cable channels that you didn't have access to, but if you flipped on them real quick, you could get a moment, a glimpse of something you weren't supposed to be looking at. So it's that era. I will say this: I do have a unique entrance into all of this because while I was born in Manhattan in New York City, my parents moved to Westport, Connecticut very early on, and my whole family was in some way involved in the business. And again, all struggling artists, and had were able to piece together their lives. My parents enough so that I could be in Westport, Connecticut, but my uncle Ned, who was my hero, my superstar. Ned Eisenberg is Eddie in The Burning.
Aha.
And he's a journeyman actor. Hey, he's that guy. Everybody knows who Ned is. Like you show up a picture, people go, "Oh," because it's every third episode of Law and Order. There's Ned. We sadly lost him 2 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, which is a shame because he's a young man. He was really quite brilliant. My other uncle, his brother Joe Ellison, was the writer, director, producer of Don't Go in the House. So horror was sort of right in the house, and across the street, or truly through the woods behind our house, and about a quarter mile down the street was Noel Cunningham, who was my best friend growing up, and his dad. Most famously, at the time when I was, 8, when him and I became best friends, his dad had made a porno movie.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
I know, and like that, like if there's anything more exciting to an 8-year-old, even though you don't know what a porno movie is. And so, Sean S. Cunningham, who directed and produced the movie together, which is Marilyn Chambers' first film. Marilyn Chambers, also a graduate of Staples High School, Westport, Connecticut. Very proud of that. Her, we've had quite a bunch, but we talk about Marilyn Chambers a lot. My buddy Noel played Marilyn Chambers' love child in that movie. So, and then soon after that, Sean realized, like, wow, porn adjacent might be better. Um, so he got together with Wes Craven and they did Last House on the Left, which again is almost unanimously cast with porn actors, which a lot of people don't know to this day, which is amazing to me. And then
Much more affordable, arguably. No.
much more affordable and much more willing to do the stuff that they needed them to do for that movie. I mean, that movie, part of the part of the ugliness of that film is that from a sexual standpoint, those actors were willing to do stuff that normal actors would have been like, wait a minute, I'm going to do what in this movie?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not doing. But I always find it actually kind of incredible when you realize, like, when they would do the things from that film, there were those moments after they would finish shooting a scene where these actors who were kind of used to going for anything, like whatever they need, and they felt bereft and they
Mhm.
felt empty from like the stuff they just had to portray. So that was the group of characters I got to, grow up with. So it was like these people who made, porn and really extreme horror. And then Sean tried to make kids movies, like, which was so nuts. Here come the tigers and Manny's orphans. And, look, here's the thing. Sean was never one to be afraid to rip off anybody who made money. If something made money, Sean was going to rip it off. Like, that was just it. So when people think about, Friday 13th, which I was there for, I was 10 and 11. When people think about that movie and they think about Sean coming up with this whole thing, Sean came up with a day of the year because John Carpenter had come up with a day of the year. So it was an evergreen title. It could always come back, right? So Halloween, you could do it every Halloween. You could put out another one of them, or you could just show the same one because it's Halloween. And so he, being the brilliant producing mind he is, which Sean has always been, he chose a holiday that can come up a couple times a year. So suddenly Friday the 13th became, that's sexy, right? And so he wanted to tell tales of the unluckiest day of the year. Great. By the way, fun fact, Noel Cunningham's birthday is Friday the 13th.
Uh,
1980, June 13th, that was Noel's birthday. And we all watched that movie at their house. When it was, it was on screens, we could watch a Betamax copy of it with all of our friends. So, yeah.
A quick question about that. You said you were there. Were you there for any of the days of shooting Friday the 13th?
I was.
Visiting?
I was.
Oh,
Yeah.
what did you see? What was that
Some of the
like?
camper stuff. I actually ended up being a runner for like they had nobody there to do anything because it was such a low budget. So I started just running sodas for people. And I became like the greatest office PA ever. All child labor laws be damned.
Because you
And it was
were
great. Sean threw me
9 or
money
10
too.
years old at the time.
I was 10 and 11. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But look, here's the thing. Having that exposure to filmmaking from behind the camera, from Sean's perspective. I mean, Sean was the first person who ever taught me how to use a word processor back before and Sean was an early adopter of computers. So we're talking early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And I was an infant, but I wanted to know everything. And I think that really got him excited, was that here's this, 11-year-old who actually wants to know how movies are made.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sean was a bit of a wunderkind when he was growing up. He was a guy who graduated from college before he was 20. He was, kind of a brilliant mind. And I think the fact that I was so excited at such a young age, I think he saw perhaps some of himself, perhaps not. But he saw a student that was excited. And look, this was the time of Steve Miner. So Steve was always around. Wes was always there. Tom Savini was always there. Tom actually showed Noel and I an early uncut version of Dawn of the Dead, which we were far too young to see. But that's totally a Tom Savini thing. That's just Tom. Tom, by the way, almost killed my uncle Ned Eisenberg on The Burning. Almost killed him. So it like there was
Well,
something
wait,
very
hang on. Please continue with
Yeah.
that side
You can't
note.
just
We
pass
have
over that.
time
okay.
for
So
important little asides like that.
you've seen the Scream Greats documentary, of course, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Ned is in that documentary. There's a reason Ned's in that documentary. That was a oops, I'm sorry, let's put you in the documentary. And Ned even says, if you blink, these guys will take you out. He literally says those words on camera and they let it in. Okay. Because they were doing the mold on Ned's chest for the shears, right? For the
Yep.
moment on the raft. And so Ned's tied down to hold him down so that he can't move while they're doing this. And this is ancient. This is like beginning of this kind of effects work, right? So they had, covered him in alginate, and then the plaster mold goes on top, and then the bandages, right? So everything's wrapped. Tom, it had been a long time since Tom had done a full chest. He had done a piece of Kevin Bacon, but he hadn't done this.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ned was tied down. So they leave Ned to cure. Well, problem is that plaster heats from the inside, and it starts to constrict this way.
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Suddenly, Ned is feeling uncomfortable. He's trying to stay cool about it. It's okay, whatever. It's getting tighter and tighter, and it's a ton of material on top of him, and he's tied down. And suddenly it starts compressing his chest, and he can't breathe, and he can't speak.
Oh.
And he's gasping for air, trying to get somebody to help him. And at the last minute, Tom ran in. This is a true story, with a sword, with one of Tom's famous swords, and chopped the thing in half, splitting it off Ned's chest.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the Ned and Tom story. And again, look, Ned loved Tom. It wasn't like he wasn't even angry at him, but it was like, dude, that's not okay. And of course they were like, hey, want to be in a documentary? And of course Ned was an actor and was like, all right, yeah, what does it pay? So that's that side of it. But yeah, it was a very incestuous group of people, and it all seemed incredibly normal. There were all of these like amazing artists that were always around. By the way, Westport, just a quick thing on that. We lived down the street from Paul Newman. Neil Simon was around the corner. By the time I was in my, when I was 11, I started doing play readings with Keir DeLay and Frank Gorshin and, Sandy Dennis, like incredible Academy Award nominated actors. And there was no like wow about it. It was just like, here's this amazing person you're going to do some work with. And so I was very blessed in that. I will also say, I went to a public high school. I went to public school. I never went to a private school. We were not rich. Westport's an incredibly rich town, but we weren't rich. It was an artist community at that time. But I will say this, that public school had a theater department that paid for the sports departments. Still does to this day. It had, 5 different bands and 3 different orchestras. It had 5 different choirs.
Wow.
It had a theater program I've never seen a college that had as good a theater program. And all of that was public schools. And beyond the fact there were art classes and screen printing classes and photography classes and all the rest of it, because there was a value put on it. And I will tell you, the number of artists who have come from that school and made incredible livings in our business it's all because they were given the chance to experience all of that. And
Hmm.
now funding for the arts in school has become so rare and so rarefied that it's one of those things that, like, I'm always trying to champion. Like, put art in school, your kids will be smarter. They'll be smarter.
Yeah.
If they're great in music, they will be better in math. And sometimes that's how
Right.
you get them excited about math, is by giving them an instrument. And suddenly they understand, half notes, quarter notes, timing, all of that stuff. And suddenly they're like, oh, fractions are easy.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So I just think it's all part of it. And again, I know how lucky and blessed I was to grow up in a beautiful place and a wonderful place. But I also know what the building blocks were to allow me to have wings at such an early age to do the things that I've done.
Oh, wonderful.
Well,
Let's
speaking about
connect.
those wings, I
Yeah.
was
Oh, go
about to
ahead.
connect to one of the one of the back of questions. We have a question from Imani Hill
Mhm.
asking if you ever seen the first Friday the 13th movie, and it sounds like you have. You've got a bit of experience with it.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite part of that film? I'm gonna dunk on that a bit, not dunk on it, but add to it.
Yeah.
You were present for filming, so
Yes.
what part uh, what part of it did you enjoy the most to be present for, and
Mhm.
what part, as an audience member, is your favorite part of that film?
So my favorite thing about being part of the process of Friday the 13th was to watch Sean do what he did. Was like in my first glimpse of what a director does.
Mhm.
And the other thing, and it's become my lifeblood, it's become the thing that I'm the most proud of in my life, is the little amount of time I got to spend with other actors.
Mm.
I fell in love right there and then and there. I fell in love with their process and how, especially young people, when they're just figuring it out, when they've just left, whatever conservatory they're in, or they're just starting to get their ears wet. I love watching an actor discover what their possibilities are.
Mhm.
Watching an actor make a choice is just a really exciting thing, and it is, in this day and age, we're so consumed, we're so visual has become everything. In sort of the age of Michael Bay, everything has gone to visuals over time, and I keep, like, screaming for, like, we had better movies when we worried less about the lens flare and more about the performance and more about the feeling that you get that an actor can give you. And look, horror movies are the great training ground for actors. Like, that's where actors get to start. It's there, and soap operas, or it used to be soap operas. It's little projects like that, and places where they don't have enough money to hire name actors, so they go, all right, we're gonna get some kids. Let's get some kids and slaughter them in the woods. Okay. Um, so I love that. As far as the movie, um, the thing I was most afraid of as a child, Kevin Bacon's death. I slept with extra pillows under my head for my entire teen years because of that shot. That freaked me. Can I swear?
Sure.
Yes.
Freaked me the fuck out. I was not okay. Like, that was not okay. But I will tell you this, and there's a little story, and it goes to my favorite thing about the first movie. So, because we had seen the film so many times in editing stages and different things, when it came upon Noel Cunningham's birthday, it was his 12th birthday. It was Friday 13th, June 13th, 1980. We invited all our friends over. Now, again, this is a group of other 11 and 12-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
None of them had seen the movie. They couldn't get into the movie. And the movie was like, it's a hard R. By the way, it's not even a hard R. It's an X. It's an X. Because as legend has it, this is the legend. I'm just giving you the legend. The MPAA had demanded that Sean make deep cuts into the movie. Deep cuts.
Mhm.
He did, resubmitted it, and they approved it. And then somehow the footage got back in the movie.
Oh no.
I know this because I made films for Sean Cunningham, and the MPAA was so far up my ass that that they could taste my breakfast. Um, so now I've got this group of 11 and 12-year-olds over at Noel's house, and Noel and I knew the movie verbatim, right? We'd seen it so many times. And so as the ending scene comes up, and by the way, today is Adrian King's birthday. So happy birthday, Adrian. As that moment comes up at the end of the film, right? And again, our friends are petrified. Like they couldn't believe, nobody could believe what we were looking at, right? Noel and I snuck behind this one big couch where a big group of our friends were.
Jerks.
And as the last moment happened and Jason jumps up, Noel and I both jumped on our friends.
I did the same thing when I first showed my friends that movie.
By the way, the couch had to be washed.
There you go. I must say real quick, everyone's got their own personal connection with a lot of these things. For me, you were talking about, the cable channels and also the ones that you didn't have, so you had to go to their friends. My parents would not pay for HBO and cable, so I had very selective friends when I would open up the TV Guide. And so the first time I saw Friday the 13th was at 2 a.m. at a sleepover at my one friend who had a TV in his room because he was special. And so I got to, and he fell asleep. So I watched that all by myself. Watching
wow.
Friday.
That's a brave watch. That is a brave watch.
He had to watch the bed after that too. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, let's please connect you to you now are a grown human, an adult,
wow.
and now quite the opportunity comes your way, and obviously you could set that up, please.
Yeah. Well, what had happened was, so I had worked with Sean, and then I apprentice edited with his wife Susan, God rest her soul, who was she was like a second mom to me. Susan Cunningham, brilliant editor and a remarkable person. And so she had done Friday the 13th Part 2. And then she was doing Spring Break for Sean, which I apprenticed on. And again, like the most inappropriate movie for a 13-year-old boy to apprentice on. I always say that I walked into the editing room a boy, came out a man. So when I was 15, I started my first of 2 theater companies. Sean actually contributed to those and helped. And Jessica, his daughter, and Noel were both part of that. I ran theater for many years, and then in the middle of that went to NYU Film School. At NYU, I won Best Picture with a movie called So You Like This Girl, which weirdly has an all-star cast. Because Tom Lennon of Reno 911 fame and Joe Latruglio of Brooklyn 99 fame. Yeah, the two of them are the two leads of my student film. And in fact, the girl who's like the girl who was my girlfriend is Deborah Kaplan, who co-wrote and directed Can't Hardly Wait and Josie and the Pussycats. So I really have like this extraordinary, my editor to this day, my editor, Eric Beatner, is in the movie. He's nominated right now for the 8th time for the Emmy for The Amazing Race, for editing The Amazing Race. So we had this like unbelievable group of people that nobody knew were going to be anything. I knew they were, but nobody else did. So we made this movie, got an incredible response, but NYU was not impressed. All of the teachers were, the judges were, but NYU would not bring the movie to LA because the movie wasn't NYU enough. It was color. It was a comedy. It had teenagers in it that weren't angst-ridden. It was what?
How dare you?
Exactly. It was a joyous kind of John Hughes meets David Mamet sort of romp. And NYU did not, the dean did not understand my movie, just did not get it. So they didn't bring it to LA. So it only got shown in New York, and it didn't get the screening out here. So I only got 2 job offers after the movie. One was from Lynch Frost to write on the 2nd season of to be in the writer's room for Twin Peaks. And the other job offer was from my old boss, Sean Cunningham. who said, quote unquote, come out to LA, be my bitch for a year, and I'll give you your shot. And I'm sorry, I did that really poorly. Listen, come to LA. You'll be my bitch for a year. You'll do everything I need you to do. And then I'll let you have, you can go make a movie. Because Sean Cunningham is the supervillain, the Penguin. That is. So I could not have gotten on a plane faster. Came to Los Angeles, and I had a script in my back pocket that my best friend in college, a guy named Dean Laurie, had written called Johnny Zombie. And that was going to be my movie. And being the impatient son of a bitch that I am, only a few months into being in LA, by the way, I was living in a car, so I had a reason to be impatient. And Sean was paying me $300 a week to be his slave. It was bad times. And by the way, I was spoiled because in New York, when I was finishing up college and because I graduated early from NYU, while I was in New York, I was working for R. Greenberg and Associates, the title house that did all the Brian De Palma movies, did the Superman titles, did the Predator Vision that won the Special Academy Award. So I was getting paid real money. I worked on Goodfellas, Silence of the Lambs. I mean, I worked on like huge movies with Brian De Palma hired me himself to work with him on Bonfire of the Vanities. Not trying to brag. But Brian was amazing. So, I mean, I really was kind of spoiled with the kinds of movies I was getting to work on. And now I'm working on House 4 for Sean.
Peak cinema.
A movie literally where every time we say it's House 4, people go, what was House 3? When did that happen? And I'm like, well, that's the horror show. And in Europe, it's called House 3. I literally was like, So I was really, anxious, wanted to move forward quickly. And so I devised a plan to get somebody to look at my script. So I had a friend of mine who was in catering sneak me into a charity event where I knew Roger Corman and his wife were going to be. And I asked his wife to dance. I had a full tuxedo, the whole bit. Like, I looked sharp. I looked like I belonged. I did not. And I danced with her, and I'm a good dancer. I'm good. I was a choreographer for 8 years prior to that. So no, I knew how to dance. And so we're dancing, and I asked her about this thing that her and Roger were in this contest with each other, this little like side bet with each other to see who could make the cheapest, fastest movie. And I was like, wow, sign me up for that. And she's like, oh, well, you're a filmmaker. I said, oh, yes, I won Best Picture at NYU last year. Really? And suddenly I'm pitching Johnny Zombie on the dance floor. And she's like, I love this idea. Send me the script. Great. I immediately go to Noel Cunningham's house and I go, yeah, no, the Cormans, they want to look at the script. I knew, telegraph, telephone, tell Noel it's going to get to his father. Literally next morning, I'm in the office and I'm making a photocopy of the script, back in the arcane days when we had to actually, print things. So I'm which by the way, I had no driver's license. I'm living in LA, living in a car that I can't drive.
That's ballsy. That's ballsy.
Right. And I am delivering stuff on a stripped down 10 speed, like Quicksilver. Okay. And so there I am with this screenplay, and I'm making and Sean goes, what's that? I said, well, it's this movie I want to make. He grabs it off my desk, walks in his office, slams the door. He emerges an hour and a half later. Marcus, get in here. I run into the office thinking like I'm going to get hit with something. And he goes, all right, so I hate this script, but I like the title. So I'm going to give you $1.5 million and you go shoot it in Connecticut. And I was like, what am I going to do? What now? What? And he says, but we're going to bring on a real writer and fix this. And I went, then I'm not selling it to you. And I won't give it to you. I said, my best friend wrote this script. No, no, we developed this for 3 years. So no, we're not doing that. And so I convinced him to fly Dean Lorey to Los Angeles, put the two of us up in the shittiest hotel he could find. By the way, got me out of the car. And we would write for 6 weeks. Like, let us write, let us fix it. And if after that, if we can't follow your notes and make it better, then you can get another writer. Then pay us out and I'll direct the movie, but get another writer. And he agreed to it. He sent Dean out here, and literally the first thing we had to do, we went from the airport to the Robert McKee story structure thing for 3 days. Shoved us in that room. I was like, okay. And so we ended up in the Holiday Inn on Sunset and the 405, and we rewrote that movie, and it got so good. Sean was so in love with it that suddenly Sean was like, okay, we need to get a studio behind this. Like, I want to get real money for this movie. So we did readings. We did because of my theater background and Sean's theater background, in fact. And we had these casting directors out of New York who were Broadway casting directors, David Giella and Julie Hughes and Barry Moss, God rest his soul. They gave us, I had Tony Award winners at a table read for Johnny Zombie. Okay. I also had Dean and my next door neighbor for the last 3 years at NYU playing Johnny, Adam Sandler, the week before he got SNL. So there we are at this table read. New Line and Disney were out there. And the reason for the table read was, I was like, look, executives don't read scripts. They don't. They just don't. They have, a poor college, a college graduate do a book report. They read the book report, and that's what they make decisions on.
Yeah.
I was like, if they're not going to read it, this movie is so weird. By the way, it was a zombie comedy musical. All right. That was a hard R. So I'm like, no one's going to get it if we don't let them know what it is. So we did these performances, and they were amazing. And New Line and Disney both started bidding on this movie. We got in a bidding war. I begged Sean to go with New Line. Begged him. I was like, they get this movie. They'll make this movie. Disney's going to cut the balls off this movie. But Disney was going to make, an $8.5 million movie, and New Line was going to make a $3 million movie. And it's Sean Cunningham. And money. So he went with Disney, which was a disaster. He was wrong. He was just wrong. His bank account liked it. Nobody else did. And look, no one was going to let me direct an $8.5 million Disney movie. It was never going to happen. I was 22 years. I was 21 at that time. So I turned to Sean. I just turned 22, and I said, "You owe me a movie, motherfucker. Like, I've made you a lot of money now, and I need a movie." And he says, well, New Line is going to buy the rights. Actually, what he said was, you know what, Adam? You know what your superpower is? What, Sean? You're the world's biggest nudge. By the way, it's the greatest compliment I ever could have gotten. He's not wrong. I am. And he then said, New Line's buying the rights to Jason Voorhees away from Paramount. If you can get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie, I'll let you write and direct the film. And I went, yeah, like, wow, right, that's awesome. And I'm running down the hallway, and I'm like, I'm going to make it Friday 13th. And I went, wait a minute, get the what out of the what? What am I doing? What? I got a what now? So Sean to this day denies that he ever said that to me. It's literally, I always love when Sean goes like, Adam wanted the mask out of him. I didn't want the mask. Okay, here's the thing. Sean thought that making Friday 13th Part 2 about Jason Voorhees was idiotic. He thought it was idiotic, quote unquote. Then when Steve Miner showed him the sack, his response was, oh, it's Elephant Man, the horror movie. Okay. And then when they did the hockey mask in Part 3, he went, oh, I thought the sack was stupid. Okay. And the other thing is, Sean couldn't get anything else done. When I was working for Sean, right? everything was, he had tons of projects. He had all these like amazing projects that he wanted for Sean Penn, that he wanted to direct these things. Sean literally once said to me, my goal is to win an Academy Award. And I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, the Friday the 13th guy wants to win an Academy. Okay. I mean, okay. Like, you know, William Castle made Rosemary's Baby. So yeah, it happens. Right. But for me, I saw Sean as a filmmaker who was desperate to be taken seriously. And Sean was a filmmaker, in fact, who couldn't do anything that didn't have that hockey mask attached. And by the way, he never made one of the movies with a hockey mask. My movie is the first Friday 13th since the original Friday 13th that he produced. He had nothing to do with the other films. His protege made two of them, and his wife cut one of them. That's it. He just got money. He just got rich every time they made one. So when it came down to, you know, taking the mask out of the movie, I'm always like, okay, so let's see. Let's take either scenario. Either I said to Sean, listen, Sean S. Cunningham, creator of the Friday 13th series and the House series, I know I'm only 21, but fuck you. We're pulling that fucking hockey mask out of the movie, motherfucker. Deal with it. Right? And he said, sure, Adam, of course we are. Yes, sir. Or he said, get the fucking hockey mask out of the movie. And I said, yes, sir. What else do you need me to do? Can I finish polishing the car? Because I haven't finished your wax job yet. Okay.
I don't know, Adam. The story has a lot of holes. It could be the other way around.
Right. So either I am the single most powerful young man to ever hit Hollywood ever, and Sean is a eunuch, or Sean was my boss, told me what to do, and I was a good soldier and did my job. Either way, I'll take it. But in one way, okay, I'm a badass. In the other way, Sean's a fucking liar. So that's what it comes down to. So sorry if that seems a little pointed, but kiss my ass.
You needed to clarify.
I did.
So, he was working on his New Kids sequel, wasn't he? Thinking about that.
By the way, he had not nice things to say about people on that movie. That almost broke him, that movie.
Oh man,
New Kids. Oh yeah. So 3 days later, I brought him a treatment that was a very dark version of what ended up becoming Jason Goes to Hell.
We have some backer questions asking about how you came up with the story of Jason Goes to Hell, specifically from Zach Wright. Essentially, how did you come up with that story? Before you answer, I do want to bring attention to our live audience here. They love you. All I'm seeing is, oh my God, hockey mask. This story is so funny. I'm in stitches. Adam's story needs to be a movie. My life with Sean. Just so
by the way, it is a movie. We're just finishing the color timing. We just finished the color timing this week on Hearts of Darkness: The Making of the Final Friday. There is a feature length. There's a feature length documentary coming out. And by the way, because I wasn't going to do the Crystal Lake Memories, 5-hour documentary thing. Because I was like, no, I want it to be a movie. Like, we need to make a movie. And I didn't direct the movie. I produced the movie. Michael Felsher directed it, but and he's did a brilliant job. But I demanded that, look, anything we excise from the film to make it a feature goes on the Blu-ray. Everything. Mm-hmm. So it's over 4 hours of material on all these shenanigans, and it's a lot of shenanigans. Yeah,
the fans seem to demand that it be a horror comedy musical, preferably with a zombie protagonist.
That's my brand, man. That's my brand. By the way, Johnny Zombie did get made, and it was My Boyfriend's Back. Speaking of 90s horror, 1993 opened 1 week before Jason Goes to Hell.
So you're competing against your own film.
Oh,
Were you able to be at all impartial? What were your thoughts, your nutshell thoughts on My Boyfriend Back? My Boyfriend's Back.
My Boyfriend's Back is a beautifully cast movie. The cast is extraordinary in that film. Philip Seymour Hoffman in one of his very first roles, right out of school with me in New York. Paul Dooley. That cast is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable group of actors because Bob Balaban directed the movie, who I love. I love Bob Balaban. Like, who has something negative to say about Bob Balaban? Oh, sure, from Close Encounters to Parents to this movie. Oh, we're so disappointed. No, it was amazing. The late Cloris Leachman is in the film. I mean, it's a beautifully cast movie. Disney did what Disney did back then, because back then Disney was the unhappiest place on earth. And it looked the same. It wasn't the same. And they neutered it. I mean, they truly cut the balls off of what could have been, you know, a cult classic. It had all the earmarks of madness to make it something that could have really stayed with people. And instead, it's a really pleasant film you can show your teens. It's like a movie you can show kids and they'll have fun. And the romance is still really cute and all that's nice. But wait, okay, here's what they did. And this is the most important thing. When Dean and I were workshopping that script, it was the late 80s in New York City. We'd both gone to NYU. We had a ton of friends who were dying around us because the AIDS crisis had happened. And we were in theater and we were in film and a lot of our friends died. And the movie was about a guy who dies, gets shot in a convenience store holdup, protecting the girl that he's madly in love with. And he asks her to the prom as he's dying in her arms. She says yes, because she's not an asshole. And then he dies. He comes back 2 days later because his need to be with her at the prom is so extraordinary that it rises him from the dead. But when he gets to the cemetery, when he comes up from the cemetery, there's all these other zombies, right? There's tons of zombies in the cemetery. Those zombies never leave the cemetery because if you leave the cemetery in 3 days, your body will fall to pieces. You won't be able to survive unless you eat the flesh of the living. It's the only way to stay alive, right? But all the zombies are like playing pinochle, having karaoke things in the mausoleum. Like they're at night, like they just live their lives, right? They're just people. And Johnny bravely has to get to the prom. So he leaves, right? The other zombies see Johnny do this and they go, I just want to go home. And they leave the confines of the cemetery. Well, when they come home to their loved ones, they're not flesh-eating zombies. They're not bad guys. They're just different. They just look different. And suddenly, they are the monster. And it was our allegory for what happened to so many of our friends who got AIDS, looked terrible. There was a whole thing that happened, the carcinomas and everything that went on. But they were the same person. They were, and there was this fear of touching them, which was all bullshit. And so they couldn't be held. They couldn't be loved. They couldn't feel that. And so we made a movie about the AIDS crisis, and Disney made a comedy about a zombie kid. By the way, who they objected to him looking too much like a zombie. They asked us to cut all the zombies out of the movie. It was the first development meeting. They said, cut all the zombies. We were like, wait, the movie's called Johnny Zombie. They're like, yeah, on that. Could he seem like less dead and more like tired?
Johnny Sleepy.
Right. But this is what happens when you take a movie that at its core is purely non-commercial. It doesn't mean that it's not going to find an audience, but it's not a 4-quadrant movie. It's a 1-quadrant movie. It's like, we're going for the people who go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We're going for people who are into really alternative cinema. And instead, we ended up with this really synthetic movie that, by the way, is fine. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's just not what it should have been. Yeah. And that's a shame. By the way, and that's most movies.
Yeah.
That's most movies. It is. And it's, again, why there are periods of time. I think the 90s actually, funny enough, ironically, is a better time for edgy cinema than most people give it credit for. Yes, there's the Disneys that do stuff like what I'm talking about, but there's a lot of really, look, let's be honest, guys. I mean, Jason Goes to Hell, that is that far from a John Waters movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Like, I've had to rewatch it several times recently for the doc, and also because it was the 30th anniversary last year. So I went to a lot of screenings, and I'm watching it going like, what was I smoking? Like, it's nuts. This movie's nuts.
It's fun. It's fun. Can I ask you, because we have 15 minutes on, and we could be here for hours.
Hours.
By the way, I'm happy to stay a little longer if you want to stay a little longer. So that's fine by me. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's fine with that. Andrew, the voice of Andrew, will have to tell us how much time we have. But
no problem.
Oh, did he speak?
We can go to quarter past. All right. Look at that. All right.
Well, thank you. We willed it to happen. I do appreciate it, Adam.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Well, okay. I was going to ask, unless there are some specific questions we want to get to, but I be sort of cutting into the meat of Jason Goes to Hell before sort of the general tale of it. I love the fact that you are paying homage to all these great other films. You sort of build a whole, it's in this world where you've got the Necronomicon, you've got, the Jungle Gym from the Birds, please do tell these wonderful nods that just made it fun for you and for people who are paying attention.
Here's the thing. Look, yes, Easter eggs. And by the way, at that time, very few films had done it. Like, very few movies had done what we were doing. And I was really turned on by the fact of, yes, it's like, it's the horror in jokes. Like, so I wanted the club, the Monster Club, all of us to like, go like, ooh, look. But it was more than that. I really wanted to honor what had come before me. I knew how young I was. It wasn't like I woke up and went, wow, look at that. I knew that I was lucky. I knew I was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Like, I got it. By the way, I'd been working since I was 11. So this concept of like, you got out of film school, big Nepo baby. Like, I love when people call me that. I'm like, really? I'm a Nepo baby now? I mean, because I knew a guy? That makes you a Nepo baby? I'm not Sean's son. It's having a knowledge that there are filmmakers and artists that have influenced what you do. So for me to put a Hitchcock prop into my movie is not me going, look how funny I am. It's me saying, I'm sorry, that's the master of all suspense cinema. If I can say thank you in my movie, I'm going to do it. So a lot of the references were for that. Sheriff Landis is called Landis because Sean Cunningham literally called me the next John Landis. By the way, that is a very difficult thing to say these days, but at that time it was a positive.
Yes.
Because I had a sense of humor and I wanted to do horror. So he was like, you're that guy. And by the way, from my other films, you'll see like my best reviewed work is always my comedies. That's kind of where my head goes. But I wanted people to realize that there is this tapestry of filmmaking that goes before any filmmaker that makes them who they are. That said, I also went, okay, one of the biggest complaints in horror movies is that why do people not know they're in a horror movie?
Yeah.
Right? So it's the Geico commercial. Like, let's go hide behind the wall of chainsaws. Right. Because people in horror movies are morons because they've never seen a horror movie. Right? Obviously. But my thought was, well, what if all the horror movies are in the same universe? And what if they haven't seen a horror movie? What if they haven't seen what we think of as a horror movie? Right? What if that's not the case? So it's why the opening of the... Look, guys, the opening of the film is based on the fact that there's been over 100 murders in a half-mile area of land. The feds are going to get involved at that point. Like, it's no longer a local town issue. It's a federal issue. So
I don't know, Murder, She Wrote.
You what?
I don't know. There's Murder She Wrote where there's
you're absolutely right. You couldn't be more right. My secret fantasy about Murder She Wrote is that she's the one doing all the killing.
She's doing it. Yes, exactly.
Right? Makes a lot more sense. She stays in business. How fun is that remake? Like, where's that on Netflix? You know, Murder She Done. You know, by the way, now that I've said it, it's going to be on Netflix next year.
Yeah.
Someone in this audience is smart enough to write it down and go, I'm going to get a meeting at Netflix. There you go. You're welcome. So here's what it is. You know, the opening of that film is about logic. And I wanted the movie to have a sense of logic. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, when Friday the 13th Part 2 came out, I remember distinctly sitting with Sean and saying, what the fuck, dude? What is that? Like, that was a little kid in the lake. Mm-hmm. And now he's a grown man with a full set of clothes, absolutely knows how to drive a car, because I don't think he stumbled through Crystal Lake holding his mama's head in a bag with his face. And he's learned how to read, because the only way you could find a human being at that time was go to the white pages. So he learned how to find her address. I mean, this is a pretty resourceful kid from the bottom of the lake for the last 30 years who had a hydrocephalic head, who was teased because he was on the spectrum back in the 50s. So what the fuck, man? And by the way, not only that, Jason has an incredible sense of humor. I mean, he takes mom's head, hides it in the fridge, and then he hides and waits for her to find the head. Like, I want someone show that behind the scenes footage, right? Of Jason behind a cubby going, wait until she opens. It's gonna be hilarious. So here's the thing. My whole interpretation on this was that, okay, what if Pamela, right? What if she went to any lengths to get her Jason back, and she did consult the dark arts and did get her hands on a Necronomicon? By the way, I love this idea. There's one Necronomicon and it's only in Sam Raimi. Shut up. No, it's not. If you read any of the lore of that, the Necronomicon is a common book. Okay, it's not this one-shot deal. And I love when people put rules on this kind of nonsense. Yeah. Like, oh, really? Okay, so you were hanging out with Lovecraft, were you, when he wrote this? you got the liner notes on what he was doing? It's like, give me a break, guys. Have a little imagination. Somehow it's totally cool that we've got, like, 11-year-old Jason, 38-year-old Jason. Boop, like that. That works. But this other thing doesn't.
You age quicker underwater. It's a common fact.
Yeah, exactly. So Pamela gets her hands on the Necronomicon and calls her son back to life. Now, by the way, imagine that little boy stuck for 30 years in the muck and the mire of whatever was there, right? And he wakes up and he's terrified, and it's cold. It's so cold. And one of the first things he sees is his mother, lakeside, get decapitated by this woman. Well, of course, his first instinct would be come up and grab that woman, which he does. But he's a little boy. He can't actually wrestle her to the ground. He's still this little frail thing, even though he's filled with this evil, right? Well, guess what? In 2 weeks, he gets over that shit. And suddenly, he's Hell's assassin. Guess what? In horror movie land, I buy that logic. Now I'm going, okay, no. That's a story I can actually follow as an audience member, right? So for me, Jason Goes to Hell is the Rogue One of the Friday the 13th franchise. Mm-hmm. We're how that little port is open. We're the logic. So if you suddenly do that, then Zombie Jason works. Then Jason versus Carrie works. I mean, Jason taking a boat ride is still Jason taking a boat ride. But all of this starts to make a little more sense. And for me, that's kind of the inspiration why we went the way we did. The body hopping, to go back to your earlier question, Dominic, from one of the people on here, you know, the body hopping thing came from the fact that, and it's so funny that people always go to The Hidden. I hadn't seen The Hidden at that point. I just simply hadn't seen that movie. And I'm a cinephile, so it's annoying that I hadn't seen it yet, because I would have made some differences, because it is very similar. There are similarities, no two ways about it. But really, what Jason Goes to Hell is an ode to one of my 5 favorite horror movies, which is The Thing. And it's amazing because so much of my filmmaking has referenced The Thing. In Secret Santa, there is literally a line of dialogue from The Thing in the movie, as a nod. And The Thing really touches something in me that is a primal fear. I don't, for everybody on here, I have never drank alcohol or done any drugs. I know from the movies I've made, it's like, what? That guy's got to be high. I've never done either. Okay. And I know we've literally lost half the audience. I think like half your audience just clicked off their computers like, oh, fuck that guy. I'm not a party. Get out of here.
No, they want to tap whatever chemical you're using.
Absolutely. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Here's the thing.
It's natural. It's not a drug.
Exactly. It's just the cocoa bean. No. Here's the yayo. Here's the thing. I've never used any drugs, and a big part of that is a control issue. Is never losing self-control, never losing who I am as a person. By the way, there was no rampant alcoholism in my family. I wasn't scarred by none of that. It is purely a thing for myself. And I do not stand on any soapbox. I am in that regard totally for, I think everything should be legal. Do your thing. Okay. You want to kill yourself with drugs? Have at it. I am not the person to say no to you and drink up, baby, because I love being with a bunch of my friends getting drunk, because it only means I can pull pranks on them all night long. It's fucking awesome. But the idea of loss of self is a real thing for me.
Yeah. And
this movie goes right to the heart of that. Jason Goes to Hell is about that. Secret Santa is about that. I tend to make movies that have this idea of what happens if you lose yourself. For me, Philip Kaufman's version of Body Snatchers is just one of the all-time greats, and a really underrated movie even to this day. There is something about, I think even the Alien movies do this, we're going to be taken over by something and we're gone, and it still looks like us, but it ain't us. And so the body hopping came right out of that idea. So that was also, there's something great about like, who goes there? Like, who's the bad guy? Because my philosophy on all horror films, specifically slashers, and because of the number of sequels on all of these movies, the first movie of all of these franchises, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street in particular, these are all terrifying movies. The first movie are terrifying. By the way, the original Friday 13th is a little long in the tooth now. Oika Vault. I mean, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of waiting around for stuff to happen. But they are all really flat out scary movies. And in some cases, the second one is still really scary, right? Halloween 2 is a banger. That's a great movie. Friday the 13th Part 2, I think, is a better movie than Friday the 13th. Okay? Right. So really cool stuff. And then what happens is they go, well, let's show the killer more. Like, that's what kids want to see. They want to see the killer. So they show the killer more, which means they have to give them dialogue or funny bits or make them funny. And suddenly the audience is no longer rooting for the heroes. They're rooting for the murderer. If you're rooting for the murderer, it's not a horror movie anymore. It's not. It's a roller coaster ride. That's fine. That's a great piece of entertainment. But stop telling me it's scary, because it's not scary, because you don't care about the victim. You only care about the shark. No one ever saw Jaws and rooted for the shark. No one. If you showed other sharks that movie, they'd be like, oh, I love Brody. Brody's great. What a good dude. So for me, I wanted to make a movie that was actually a little frightening. So I went, I'm going to make Jason scary again. You don't know where he is. You don't know where he's coming from. He could be your best friend. He could be the cop that comes to help you. And suddenly the monster's in the room with you. That to me is actually scary. And so that's where the inspiration came from. It's also why we did it the way we did it.
You also got to have plenty of mask in that movie. In the whole opening sequence, and then anytime a mirror, he's got to fluff up in front of the mirror, you know?
And the longest final battle of Jason ever. I mean, it's a lot of mask. Actually, it's more mask than a bunch of the other films. Mm-hmm. And it's very frustrating. People go, not enough hockey mask. It's like, no, there's a lot of hockey mask, man. And again, here's what I really don't understand. I am cool. Look, by the way, anyone who hates this movie, have at it. It's cool. I'm fine. Because, by the way, the fact that people hate it is why it's still being talked about to this day. If it was just liked, it would be forgotten. Oh, yeah, good.
We've got one guy, Christopher Kane, asking, how do you feel about making the best Friday the 13th movie? And on the other side of the spectrum, we have Stephen Godfrey, not negative, by the way, but saying, what would you say to haters of Jason Goes to Hell?
Okay, first thing, Christopher Kane, was that his name?
Christopher Kane.
Yeah, Christopher Kane, from deep in my heart, I absolutely love you, and thank you. Like, seriously, thank you. Like, that's beautiful, and I don't take it lightly. So I appreciate anybody who really digs the movie and it connects with them. To the other question, which is a great question. I have had people wish me ass cancer. 3 people have wished me ass cancer because of this movie. And I go like, wow, man, did I do something to your mom? Like, what? What happened? Here's the thing. Anybody who hates the movie, I respect your opinion. I respect anybody's opinion on cinema. I'm not about changing your opinion. I will constantly ask haters, why do you hate it? Okay. And they'll go down the list, right? Great. They don't like the Necronomicon being in there. Or they hate that that it's Jason is in different bodies. Fuck that. They hate that I tried to create a mythology where there didn't need to be one. Great. Okay. Then I say, okay, cool. Got it. Cool. What do you think of the opening of the movie? Oh, well, I mean, like one of the best openings on a Friday. Okay. How are the kills? Oh, badass. How about the tent kill? Like number 1 or number 2 of the whole franchise. Cool. How's that whole ending section with Jason coming up and the whole fight and everything? Oh, it's fucking great, man. It was like really cool. And John D. LeMay, being from the, the television series, like that's badass. And he's in the, okay. How about Julie Michaels? Hot, right? Like really hot. Oh, so hot. Oh my God. Like ever since Roadhouse, like I had such a thing for her. Okay, cool. Did you like the rest of the characters? Yeah, they're awesome. Like, Joey B's really funny and it was great when she got her mouth punched in. That was fucking cool. And how about the whole shootout in the diner? Oh yeah, no, that was badass. That was really fucking cool. Okay. And why do you hate it?
Yeah, so what didn't you like?
and why do you hate it? I can understand having issue with it. I can understand saying like there's stuff in there that bumps me. There's stuff in there that jumps into my childhood and, strangles some of my favorite moments. Got it. But why do you hate it? And here's what I love about haters. And I love the haters. I do. I love the haters. I don't dislike these people. I think they're awesome. Every hater has got my movie on at least 4 different types of media. All of them. So you guys have all spent, the haters have spent $80 to $100 on my movie. And by the way, here's my favorite bit. So when we did the documentary, we crowdfunded the documentary because I was like, look, I'm not going to make this documentary if the audience doesn't want it. They have to want it. Like, tell me you want it and I'll make it. Did they want it because we got funded like that. It was crazy, like so fast. It spun my head. So I said during the crowdfunding, I said, we've got this great perk that's a thank you, so that at the end of the movie we say thank you for being part of our team, right? It was like $20. I said, but we're missing an opportunity. We're missing a golden opportunity, and we could be the first crowdfunding to ever do this. I said, I want to fuck you. I want to give people a chance to tell me to go fuck myself. And we will put it at the end of the movie. We will literally put a title that says fuck you, and then anybody who paid for a fuck you. And we got a bunch.
Yeah.
Now, here's my favorite part of this. You've just paid me $20 for something you could have done for free. It is now immortalized on screen, and you're going to pay to buy a Blu-ray of that movie or a download of that film so that you can show your friends, I told Adam Marcus go fuck himself. By the way, now you're into me for $50. So you can tell me to go fuck myself. I love the haters. I love you. I love you guys. Because again, you've kept this movie relevant.
Mm. Well, you're finding new audiences now. One of our live viewers here, Calbot, has said, honestly, I need to watch Jason Goes to Hell now with fresh eyes, with these stories in mind.
Yay!
All over.
Yay! By the way, I would also recommend it's on the new Blu-ray, the Shot Factory Blu-ray. It's on there, but it's also on the original DVD in the director's cut. By the way, please don't watch the neutered cut. Nobody watched the neutered. I don't even know why they put it out there anymore. I really don't. That's so stupid. But if you watch the director's cut of the movie, and it's really not the director's cut. It's not. That's not my essential Jason Goes to Hell. If you watch the unrated version of the movie, there is a commentary track with myself and Dean Lorey. We actually got reviews back in the day when the track was made. We got, it's the craziest thing. We got reviews that said, we don't like the movie, but we love this commentary track so much. We hope Adam Marcus and Dean Lorey make more movies. Just so we can hear them talk about them. So
podcast.
Right. It literally was like, it was a podcast on it really is like an hour and a half podcast. And there is something wonderful about understanding a filmmaker's perspective and then watching the work again to say like, oh, you know what? With those eyes, that is different. I will also say one really quick thing that's lovely about that commentary track. So we were recording the commentary track at a place called Margarita Mix in LA. Mm-hmm. And the reason it was called Margarita Mix is they would do these commentary tracks and mix them into the films, but they would serve you margaritas while you did it. And the idea was to loosen you up and get you a little drunk so you would be more honest, right? So Dean was drinking at the time, and he was loving the margaritas. And so he's getting lit while I'm having a Diet Coke. And you hear Dean get drunker and drunker throughout, and I'm like sober as a judge, but having so much fun at Dean's expense. It's amazing. In the middle of the commentary, they stopped 45 minutes and they stopped to give us a break. And my mixer came in and said, hey, I have a note for you from next door. I said, oh, cool. Who's it from? He says, well, they're mixing another film. They're doing it. They just finished a commentary in that room. I said, oh, that's cool. What movie for? He said, for A League of Their Own. I went, what? So I get the note, I open it up, and it says, gosh, hey, Adam, I really love your movie. Penny Marshall.
Oh.
Penny Marshall! That's Come on now! Like, who's expecting, Laverne to be like, I love Jason Goes to Hell?
That's a badge of honor. Well, that's why you wear an L on your shirt all the time.
You know it, right? To this day, I have an L somewhere on my body. I won't say where.
We have about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure we get any other questions in. And I also want to make sure, Adam, that you talk a little bit about your current projects and what you have coming on, and make sure everyone knows where to go and find you and that kind of stuff. But Dominic, is any other last individual questions we could?
Absolutely. Several people have asked, but the first one I'm going to is from Onzi. Were you always planning on having the Freddy and Jason aspect at the end, or was it just fan service?
No, it wasn't. It's not fan service at all. Because of all the little Easter eggs we put in throughout the film, I wanted something at the end, and I didn't quite know what it was. It wasn't in the screenplay. This was not in the original script. And we were actively shooting. And I said, wait a minute. I said, doesn't New Line, I was with Nolan Dean. They were stoned to the bejesus in our apartment. And we were coming up with like gags, like more gags I could put in the movie. And I said, wait a minute, doesn't New Line own Freddy outright? Isn't it theirs 100%? They were like, I think so. I said, oh my God, I know what the ending is. They just killed Freddy. I know what the ending is. So Freddy's Dead had already come out. I rush to the phone. I get Mark Ordesky and Mike DeLuca up in the middle of the night. And they're like, what do you want? And I was like, I tell them my ending. And they were like, oh my God, yes. Yes, a million times. I had the glove on set the next day. So that whole thing was an add-on, was something that I came up with. It was not something the studio pushed me on. None of that. So yes, I am responsible for Freddy versus Jason. Yep.
And who is the glove?
That is Kane Hodder. And Kane takes great glee in the fact that he has played both Jason and Freddy, and Robert has only played Freddy. There's a whole thing between the two of them about it. It's hilarious.
We have another question, which you sort of answered a little bit earlier on, but from Josh Morey. Were you a fan of the Friday TV series and or the character of John de la Maze, or John de la Maze character, Ryan?
I had seen the show. I was not a big fan of it because, much like a lot of other Friday folk, I was like, this isn't about Friday the 13th. What is this?
Yeah.
This is like, and again, I wasn't watching a lot of TV back then. I was in my late teens, early 20s. I was in film school. I was watching nothing but like Godard, and trying to be like as pretentious as I possibly could be. So a low-rated sci-fi show was not what I was going to do. I will tell you, I've watched the entire series since, and I love it. And I also think Warehouse 13, it should be ashamed of themselves because it's the exact same show. And it's shocking. It's shocking. And I will tell you, Frank Mancuso, who I worked with, I actually developed a television show with Frank. He's to this day pissed about that. He's like, they stole our shit. And he's right. They did. Yeah. But it's a great show. And John is amazing. Like, John is...
Yeah.
I wanted Bruce Willis. He brought Hamlet. I mean, the guy he's amazing. He's amazing. Great dude.
And a great nod to the show for that sort of synergy to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And any other last question, and then let's ask Adam about what's up next.
Exactly. Yeah. On the note of modern day stuff, kind of with Warehouse 13, old Johnny Devick is asking live. Random question: what modern day horror movies do you feel can represent the spirit of the 90s the best? In other words, what are you into?
Oh God. Okay. Wow.
You have to watch In Search of Darkness 90s, where he's not talking about his own films, because that's 90% of my movie is Adam riffing. No, I'm kidding.
I love it. I'm the Miles Davis of horror now. You know what? I will tell you what I'm really into. And it doesn't matter whether I love the movie or I don't love the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really into is this new brand of horror that says, fuck what anybody else has done in the past. Fuck your feelings. We're making a movie that's going to disturb you, that's going to be upsetting, that's going to say some stuff that you might not want to hear. I think there are a lot of filmmakers out there. I'm including, people like Robert Eggers for his work on The Witch. By the way, Nosferatu looks extraordinary.
I can't wait.
It just looks extraordinary. Talk about the right kind of movie to remake. Like, that's the right remake. I don't need another Dracula. I don't need another Dracula. I want a Nosferatu. Like, give me the ugly Dracula. Give me that. Give me that. I love The Witch. I love things like The Babadook. I love cinema that I loved the first 2 acts of Hereditary, third act. But I love Hereditary because again, here's taking horror to a place that's personal again. That's not corporate. That feels dangerous. That feels ugly and scary. Horror should scare us. It should be horrible. But by the way, I will say this, and it's the 90s. This is really about the 90s. What I think all of these filmmakers need to do is start veering away from pure dread and start finding their sense of humor again. Because the reason there is a Scream 7 is because there was a Scream, which was funny, really funny, laugh out loud funny, because Wes was funny. By the way, a little fact, I was offered Scary Movie, the original draft of Scream, right after Jason Goes to Hell. I was offered to direct that movie. And then Wes came in and I went, well, I'm not getting that job. But which I was told, which I'm like, yes, sir, I honor you. Who I grew up with. I grew up with Wes, and I was like, yeah, no, let the man do it. I'm good. He's the guy. But I have to say there's a missed opportunity, I think, for audiences right now, where they are just getting this Dread brand, and I love the Dread brand. But I want to see some joy, because the greatness of horror movies of the 80s and 90s was that it was a party. You were going to a party, and then something horrible was going to happen. It was still a party. All of these movies were fun, and a lot of the modern horror, it's just not fun. It's got lots of dread, but
I think it's kind of reflecting our times very much so, perhaps.
Yes,
arguably.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. But by the way, our times a lot of times change because artists say, let's make a change.
Yeah.
And I think we can all do that. I think we can actually start to make horror fun again. So for me, make horror fun again is a t-shirt I'm literally going to have made when I get off this podcast. So, that's gonna
on that note, what are you working on right now?
So much. Thank you for asking. I am right now working on, we're just finishing up Hearts of Darkness, the making of the final Friday. So that's coming later this year. We will be premiering at a couple festivals, and I can't say yet which, but we will be. We are doing my company is doing a documentary series right now. I can't say about what, but it's really good. It's really cool. So that is happening right now. Off of the doc stuff, I've got a magnificent movie called Fat Cat Massacre that we're doing, which is for people of size what Get Out was for people of color. It is sort of the last place people can still make fun of people. People can still shame each other. And this movie is a big fuck you to body dysmorphia. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. I've just been hired to write and direct a post-apocalyptic werewolf movie.
Very cool.
I've got Bob Kurtzman, the amazing makeup effects genius. Bob Kurtzman is directing a Bigfoot like you've never seen before movie called Hunting Season that we are doing. Oh. And I am prepping 2 in-house projects that I'm going to do Secret Santa style. So super low budge, kind of run and gun guerrilla style stuff. One called Who Goes There? Which is a conspiracy horror thriller. And the other one is called The Wickedness of the Butterfly. And it is my ode to scanners, but female empowerment.
Brilliant.
So that's the stuff that's on the direct horizon. There's a bunch more, and one thing that I can't get into yet, and I wish I could, that will blow everybody's minds. But yeah, we're committed to doing indie features right at Skeleton Crew. That's our mission, and to kind of, we formed the company with the notion of where the fuck did all the Roger Cormans go. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no, we need to start discovering new voices and new talent and give them a chance I got.
Is there a site or social media that people can check out what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I like all Gen Xers. I'm still on Facebook, so deal with it. It's the one platform that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So Adam Marcus on Facebook. I am Adam Marcus 13 on Instagram and on Twitter. And I am also Adam Marcus Artworks on Instagram, which is there you can see my my art, which is a big part of my life and what I do. And it's there's a great book series in France called Art de Cinema, and I've just been made an associate editor of that book series, and I'm writing articles, but also doing artwork for each one of the books. So
I've seen a lot of your artwork at your home, and your breakfast cereal dysmorphia is something I'm a huge fan of.
Thank you very much. My serial killer line. Yeah. Yep. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you, Adam. Thanks for staying over for a little extra time.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And I know our audience could listen to you all day. I know I sure can. And I tried to do it too, but you kicked me out.
I did not. We lost the light. That's all that happened.
Thanks everybody for coming today, and thanks for following us along with our BTS for In Search of Darkness 90s. And the movie's coming together really nicely. A good portion of it is done. Probably two-thirds to three-quarters is already cut and put together. And I'm just buying more time because there's so much that we could put in there. But that's your mini update. But thanks everyone for coming and spending time with us, and especially with Adam today.
Bye, guys.
We'll catch you next time.